Welcome to It Feels Like Home, the podcast where real life stories contain moments of faith. I'm Lisa Shudell, and I'm here to share stories of God moments. Whether you're listening on your morning drive, taking a walk, or folding laundry, I hope you find comfort and encouragement. All right. So today, my guest is Geoff Rink, and I actually don't know Geoff, but my sister introduced us. And I would love for Geoff to if you could just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live, what your family looks like, and what you do with your days.
Okay. My name is Geoff. I'm married. We live in Tennessee. Actually, I'm both natives from Colorado and lived there our whole lives up until COVID. And we decided to go on a trip across Tennessee. We'd never been here before. And by the time we left, we had bought some property. So it was not something we saw coming at all. And what happened from that is our daughters had moved out with their families. My parents, my wife's mom, they've all moved from Colorado to Tennessee after we did. So we weren't expecting any of that. So it was pretty amazing the way it all came together. And all of us were standing on this property and we held hands and we were praying about whether we should be doing this or not with our girls that came with us. And it started to kind of rain, this little mist while we were praying. And when we were done, the little rain kind of stopped and we all looked at each other and just had this overwhelming sense that we were where we're supposed to be. And so uh so we ended up moving here, and I was a financial planner for most of my career, and so I did investment. Towards the end of my career, I find myself spending more time doing marriage counseling than financial counseling because there's so much typically difference of opinion when it came to how to save and spend money with couples and
Right.
families and all of that. So I ended up going back to Colorado Christian University and got a master's in counseling and specialized in addiction. And so I did that for several years there in Colorado to finish out kind of my working years. And then we ended up moving here to Tennessee, and I'm retired. I was in the Army before all this, and I'll maybe share a story from that if we have time. But that left me with some physical issues that I'm considered 100% disabled through the VA. So it's hard to work full time. It's kind of more than I can uh, typically manage over a period of time. So I'm not typically that really working, but my wife is working full time, and I was seeing a massage therapist here in town, and she and I, over the last few years, kind of talked about other things that could come to this small town that would be beneficial for me and for others. And so we made this joint venture and came together, and we provide saunas and red lights and cold plunge tubs, all that kind of stuff. And that's where I met Hugh, your brother-in-law, and then your sister Lauren
Right.
was through that connection. So this long, crazy pathway that ended with us and me doing this here, trying to find solutions for myself, that through that we have found connections with people and heard stories about pain that they're in, overcoming things, and just perseverance and the reliance on God to get through some of that. We've heard stories of people that are, in really bad shape, and some that are having some success with things, and we're able to be, kind of sharing that. So I did not see that coming, that would be where God had me at this point in my life, was standing in this place where people are coming that have pain that I can kind of relate to. And gosh, it's only been 6 months since we started this, and the number of stories and the number of people that we've met and seen kind of transform with some of them has just been a joy. So that's where I am
That's
at this point.
I honestly did not know how you knew my sister and Hugh. She called me yesterday and said, "Hey, we were talking to this guy and he's got a God story." So I asked if he would be on your podcast, and he said yes. So I was super excited to hear your story. And I don't know if you know this, but I was a massage therapist for 29 years.
No,
And yes, and I retired about 4 years ago, and I do real estate full time now.
good for
But
you.
I still have a heart for helping people
Yeah.
heal, in one way or the other. And my husband and I, we have a cold plunge on our deck, and we both
Yeah.
work out a lot and we cold plunge pretty much every day. And so I had been
So you know.
encouraging Lauren and doing the cold plunge, and she called me yesterday all excited and said, "We did it. Yeah, they did it." I was so proud of them. That's awesome.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I think your place sounds amazing, and I really respect what you're doing. And then I wanted to thank you also for your service, your Army service.
Uh, yeah,
Um,
thank you.
and could you share with the listeners kind of your background and like, has God always been a part of your life? Did you grow up in the church? What's your background?
Okay. Yeah, I did grow up knowing God, knowing Jesus. I was involved in I was an acolyte and we were in the youth group and we did all those things and most of the friends I had were through church and we knew them at school, but there was always that was kind of my my just my base, what I knew. I realized once I left home, it ended up in the army that I never really I never really took it as my own. I found myself missing that in a way that um, I realized I don't think I ever really I gave my heart to Jesus. I gave my life to Him when I was 16 on my godparents' back deck. I remember the exact moment, but then I didn't do anything with it. I kind of just I thought I'd kind of check the box, I guess, and I ended up getting married really early. We had 3 daughters with her. Then I joined the military, and it was in the mid '80s, and I ended up getting stationed overseas in Germany, and my wife did not like it over there. She wasn't there much. Then I got back to Texas and was here just a few weeks, and the Gulf War, Persian Gulf War, started up, and I was with an artillery unit, and we got called up, and I was I was gone, and so there was another year that I was apart from her, and so we never really knew each other. But I found myself after I got deployed, we got our vehicles and started moving forward, and it became very real that this I'm missing something. Something where do I feel safe? I don't have that here. Um, they talk about the foxhole stories, and all I can tell you is there was a night when I was standing in a foxhole. It was pouring rain. I was on guard duty, and there was this feeling of emptiness. How do I ever get home? How does anybody know where I? Nobody knows where I am. I don't even know where I am. I'm in the middle of this place and I have no idea where I am. And so I called out to God then, and uh, Lisa, he was there just like that and gave me
That's all.
what I needed right then, you know? And that's when it changed. And that's when I knew it was mine. He was my savior, not just my parents. But it took a little more to get
In the
through to
fox.
me than maybe some. Right. Right. So that was the moment. That's when it changed for me. And I decided I needed to live for him.
So when you said like he was there instantly, did he talk to you? Did you just feel him? Like, can you describe that?
It was this overwhelming peace. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't afraid. It felt like he just said, "I've got you." And
Wow.
I'm not real good at remembering a lot of verses, but there's one in Zephaniah that talks about how God is holding you and singing over you with joy. And he's so joyful, so happy to be holding you that he's singing. That was what it felt like. It felt like I was in that place with him and I was no longer afraid. And maybe to my detriment, I don't know, because then every mission I was in an artillery unit, so every fire mission, everything, I knew the only way home was to push through whatever was in front of me. That was the only way out of there. And so I want to be a part of everything we do. I want to be part of why we get to go home. And so through that, which I didn't realize till years later, I got a near fatal dose of sarin nerve gas that
Oh.
we didn't know was there. Artillery, it was blowing up or something happened, and there was wind that came back on us, and we weren't notified that it was there. And so um, a good part of my nervous system has been depleted, destroyed. And so there's a lot of nerve pain that I just kind of is progressing and getting worse. So there was a price for that. But, as I'm older now and looking back, and I think there was a point where I was feeling sorry. There was, all these different emotions I went through, but I'm still here. And I'm in this place where I'm watching people get some healing, and I can connect with them because I know pain. I know maybe not the same pain, but I, I, and I love to listen. I love to hear people's story. And for some, they get to come in there and tell that story that maybe others aren't listening to so much anymore. So I feel very, very blessed in that way.
Wow, that's great. I think my sister had mentioned that you shared a God story with her. Is that a different story you want to share?
It is. It was real recent, and
Okay.
we're here in this place where we have our studio here, and we put a little wicker bench out front just to kind of make it look a little homier, and we put this cushion on it, and people kept telling me it's going to blow away, and it never did, so I didn't think twice about it. And then one day it was gone. It had blown away. We had this windstorm come up, and it was gone. And so I kind of looked across the road and checked the fence line. I didn't see it, so I just kind of let it go. And a couple of days later, I was standing in the lobby talking to a couple people, and I watched this homeless guy walk up on the other side of the road, walking right to left. And I noticed him, but that was it. But then on his way back down past us again, he was carrying this cushion to our couch thing. And I'm inside talking to clients, and there's been a few times where I know God is the one behind it, because it would not be something I would do. And it was with such confidence that that wasn't me. And all of a sudden I'm walking out, I walk to the road, and it's 4 lanes. So it's a lot of traffic there. And I yelled out, and I said, and I motioned him to come over. And as he's walking over, I'm like, what am I doing yelling at this guy? But it just came out of me. And he came over and he said,
Yeah.
is this your cushion? And I said, it is. And he said, "Well, you should have this back." And he's got long, scruffy hair, and you could tell he's certainly, I thought, homeless. And he said, "We're living in this camper up here up the road. It's him and his girlfriend." And he said a couple days ago, the stray dog came in, and we took her in, and she just had 10 puppies. And so we were going to use this cushion for the mom and I'm like, "Take the cushion, yeah, that's
Yeah.
happy to do that."
Wow.
So then a couple days later, he came down. He said, "We can't take care of these puppies. They're too many. We just can't. We don't have the finances." Well, my wife knew somebody that ran a shelter here, and we were able to get the dogs, all the puppies. They all got their shots. They're in good shape now. Um, and
Oh,
so Brian, this homeless guy, was very grateful and thanking me. And the next day, he came back down and walked in our shop here, and he doesn't look like anybody else in there, because of he's not showered, and he's got old clothes on, and he's beard and all this stuff. And he said, "Can I talk to you?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "See, I've been talking to you just for a few minutes. I'm getting emotional twice. Sorry about this." But he
no, it's fine.
he said, that day when I was walking the road, he said, "I told my girlfriend Terry," he said, "I have an old insurance policy that she's on she's the beneficiary on it." And he said, "She's better off if I'm not here." And he said, "So when you called out and yelled for me to come over," he said, "I was just about ready. My plan was to step out into traffic."
Oh my gosh.
And he said, "I just want you to know you saved my life." And so that's a lot to take. So I went up. It was right before
Yeah.
Christmas, so we took a Christmas dinner, and Terry came out, his girlfriend, and met my wife. And Brian was inside, I think, putting the food away in the camper. And Terry, she said, "I don't know if he told you or not, but do you know what he was planning to do that day?" And I said, "He told me." And she said, I didn't think he was coming back when he left that day. So when he
Wow.
came back, she said, "I was so overjoyed." So, we prayed, a little bit, there, and they're both believers. And so it was amazing thing to be there and be in that moment with them, and just get interjected into somebody's life. And we have a truck. They need to move their camper. I moved it down
down the road a ways, and I haven't seen him since, and I don't know that I will. But
Mm.
for whatever reason, God
But
had
what an impact on his life.
potentially, yeah, yeah, yeah. And he tells me he prays, and that Jesus has told him he can't do that. And so I think he's still got his story to be written too. And I don't know what that is, but that was a pretty impactful day, and
I would
really
say. I would
that
say.
short time. Yeah, yeah. So those have been the ways that I've heard God. The times where I can say I know it was God. It was more of a prompting, and it was not like
Mhm.
any prompting I would do myself. And it was usually to do things or have conversations with people that I would not normally.
Right.
And sometimes I've even felt words just coming out that I know were God's, and he was using me because that wasn't me. So
Wow.
there's been a few of them, but yeah, there's this, they keep, there's these, the peaks, and I know in the Bible talks about when something happened in the Old Testament, they would pile some rocks up. There was as a like an altar, like a place to remember. From Colorado, and I'd gather rocks on these 14,000-foot mountains we'd go on and climb to the top, and I'd keep these rocks. And then when I had these moments, I could write down the date and uh, maybe a little note about what happened in these. So these stones in the times when I'm doubting, or we're going through tough times, is I have these that that quickly remind me of his blessings and the way he stepped into my life in the past, and there's no reason to believe that's not going to happen again.
Wow.
So
I
those,
love that idea.
mm,
That's awesome. So, the weekly question I like to ask everybody is: there's someone listening to this and they either don't believe or they feel like God is far away. What one thing would you want them to know about his character?
his character. I'm just one person here, but I can tell you, he is a man of character. He's a God of character. He defines it, what character is. That is who he is these traits or these attributes that we want as someone that we're going to trust or confide in. And honestly, I believe that if you are in that dark place, you get on your knees, call out to him, he's going to respond. He's going to hear you. It doesn't mean he fixes everything. It doesn't mean that makes everything okay. Um, I've had people praying over me for 30 years to take away what I'm dealing with, the pain and stuff that I have, and it's still here. So, but because I'm not letting that take me away from that relationship with him, and blaming him, which I have in the past, but you don't know what he's doing, what he's working on. And sometimes when it feels like he's being silent, it's because he's working. He's working on something for you that
Mm,
is not quite ready. So you can trust in him. He loves you more than anyone on this earth loves you. And he wants nothing more than to be a part of your every day. And in doing that and having that relationship with him, it starts to get easier to know when that prompting is. Or some people I know you've talked to, I've listened to others that you've interviewed that hear the audible words. And for some that I think that happens, and it's different, I think, for all of us. And maybe meets us in how we're made up and how that impacts us the most. But he knows that. But
yes.
if you're feeling like he's way far away, give him the chance, because I bet he's not far away. I can tell you he is right there, and he's in those moments when you're hurting, when you're disappointed, when you're sad, when you're grieving. He feels all those emotions with you. He designed
Yeah.
them. He made those emotions because they have a place, and he feels those with you. So don't, there's those pictures walking in the sand, and you're walking and you think you're alone, and you turn back and
Mhm.
there's two sets of footprints, because he was always there right beside you. And
Mhm.
that's who he is. And we're in a broken, dark world, and this is not our home. This is not what he
Right.
has for us. And so whatever it is you're going through, whatever it is that you're feeling that's overwhelming, or insurmountable, lean on him and know that he always has the best for you. And I believe you could count on that every single time.
Thank you, Geoff. I know the things you've shared today are going to help a lot of people. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh,
And it's been a pleasure
thank
getting to
you.
know you a little bit. I'd love to meet you when I come up to visit
That would
Lauren
be
and Hugh.
great. Yeah. Yeah, that would be great. Look forward to that.
Okay. Maybe I'll
Okay.
come and do a cold plunge at your place.
There you go. It's always ready.
Thank you so much for joining me. If this episode encouraged you, I hope it felt like home. Remember that you're not alone. And if someone came to your mind while listening, please share this podcast. Take care and God bless.